Well, dear congregation, I would invite you now to please turn your very prayerful attention there to 2 Corinthians chapter 7. We arrive this evening in our verse-by-verse exposition of God's Word. We have begun last week at verse 1, and we arrive now this evening in verse 4 of 2 Corinthians chapter 7, with the Apostle Paul now continuing on in this theme to indeed get these Corinthians here to think about the promises of God and how God has promised to be a father to them that forsake the world and worldly ways and false worship and false teaching. He said, therefore, having these promises in verse 1, how they are to perfect holiness in the fear of the Lord, and so on. Now he says in verse 4, great is my boldness of speech toward you. Great is my glorying of you. I'm filled with comfort. I'm exceeding joyful in all our tribulation. Well, the Apostle Paul is glorying in them now for a reason. Verse 5 is very important. There's a connecting word there, a conjoining word. For, he says, here's the reason, verse 5, because when we were come into Macedonia, our flesh had no rest, but we were troubled on every side. Without were fightings, within were fears. Nevertheless, God that comforteth those that are cast down comforted us by the coming of Titus, and not by his coming only, but by the consolation wherewith he was comforted in you, when he told